All right, everybody, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Sports Hounds going live right now.
Let's go! This ain't the Fox Titan. Oh, this game he stinks.
Oh shit!
It's gone.
All right, everybody, it's Monday night. Sports Hounds, another episode exclusively on a2dradio.com. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Turn those notifications on so you don't miss the rant booth. Sunday's here. Don't miss the Sports Hounds Monday. We got Tommy Arnaud and Ryan Brodo coming up after us. Flight Zone was just on. Turn those notifications on. Don't miss a damn thing here on A2D Radio. Like each and every Monday, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and Instagram. Stream us, download us wherever you get your podcast. If you can't listen to us live, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Takeover Talk, absolutely everywhere. No reason to miss us throughout the summer, into the fall, into the winter, 365 days a year, A2D Radio all year round. Like each and every Monday, we are brought to you by our friends at ARIA Public Adjusting, 813-564-3364. Don't fight your homeowner's insurance alone. Get a strong ally with us at A2D Radio. Tell them we sent you. We're also brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. Dr. Paul Vidal, he's our doc. Make him yours too. We're also brought to you by All Campus between 10th and 11th Street on Ocean City, the Ocean City Boardwalk. Proud sponsor of A2D Radio and the Rant Booth, which goes on every Sunday at 11:30. Become an A2D member. Get 20% off at said on campus, off all campus. Also get gambling picks from the Money Pop Podcast and Willie Vegas. A little bit of a slow time here in sports. We got baseball going, abbreviated schedule. Hockey playoffs are going on. NBA finals going on as well. We're going to discuss it all. We got our poll question tonight. We had a little bloodshed here in Philadelphia after a dismal start, Brad. A situation you're familiar with. Joe Girardi fired as Phillies manager, sparking a sweep of the dismal Los Angeles Angels. They're like the Phillies of the American League, if you ask me. A lot of top-heavy talent. Can't really seem to get it done. But our poll question tonight, have you already noticed an improvement in the Phillies following Girardi's exit? I agree to the poll. Bryce Harper, big win yesterday, down 6-2 in the eighth, Brad. Not sure if you caught it. Bryce ties it with a grand salami, playing like an MVP with half an arm. He ties it at 6. In fine Phillies fashion, the bullpen blows it. They go down 7-6. And then the young buck, Bryson Stott, he's the hero in the bottom of the ninth with a walk-off 3-1 homer, completing the 3-game sweep of the Los Angeles Angels. A 4-game winning streak the Phillies are on as they try and climb back the quest to 500 before the 4th of July, which is where I think they need to get to have a realistic shot at getting to the postseason, at least showing signs of life. But yes, I've already seen an improvement. Look, I mean, you talked to me for years about the shortcomings of Joe Girardi as a manager.
Well, you know how bad I thought he was as a manager. I just didn't want to say anything because then you guys would be thinking I'm just hating on the Phillies.
Yeah, I thought you were nuts.
Yeah.
I thought you were a spoiled Yankees fan that if they didn't win the World Series, the season was a huge strategy. You were 100% spot on, as you usually are here on the Sports Hounds and A2D Radio. I believe the term you always used with Joe Girardi was binder baseball.
Exactly. And you know what I used to call him? Clueless Joe Girardi.
Clueless Joe Girardi.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a broken man in the last couple days of his tenure. And we touched on the ramp.
He knew he was gone.
He was a dead man walking.
Yeah.
Because, Brad, when push comes to shove, you got 20 million pieces all over this organization. were they pulling their weight? Were they underachieving? Of course they were, but unfortunately
Rob,
for Joe Girardi,
you can't fire 25 players. Okay,
yeah, took the words right out of my mouth, Brad. Took the words right out of my mouth.
You fire
Bryce
the manager.
Harper's going nowhere. Reese Hoskins is going nowhere. Gene Segura is now hurt because of Joe Girardi's cluelessness and just lack of baseball intelligence, at least at this point in time. Not going to say he's an unintelligent baseball guy because he played, he managed, he was successful in various aspects of the game. But, it was just a comedy of errors here in Philadelphia. They weren't fundamentally sound, as Dave Dombrowski put it. He read the room. He's around the team all the time. Dave Dombrowski is a guy that I do trust, even though some Phillies fans don't. I do. And he read the room, and he decided that, it was time for a change. Phillies needed a new voice. They have a 10-run outburst. First game without Girardi, they have a 10-run outburst against the Los Angeles Angels. They win 10-0. Nice win on Saturday, and you get the huge comeback win. And, the win yesterday, Brad, that's a win that lifts a team's spirits as opposed to what was happening.
Question. No question. No, that was a big win. And the Angels, you got to give the Phillies credit, really, because the Angels just left the Bronx and they got spanked really bad in the Bronx. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or was it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? They got spanked. The Yankees spanked them. Not good. Philly. So you would have thought that they would come out in Philly, okay, and take their frustrations out on the Phillies, but no, that's exactly the opposite. The Phillies went and smelled the blood in the water and went and got after it, and they buried that team.
And Tom Arnone, he's in the comments already. Comments already buzzing. We're gonna get to all of them, answer them, talk about it like we do each and every Monday here on A2D Radio. Yeah, the players woke up, and we see this in hockey all the time. I know it's not really the same thing, but, when the manager gets fired, it's the player's fault, really. So this lineup, these 20 million pieces we have, looked in the mirror and they woke up. And I think Rob Thompson, I call him Matchbox 20. It's a fun, little clever thing. Obviously, the lead singer of Matchbox 20, 90s grunge band. The lead singer was Rob Thomas. Not quite.
That came from.
Not quite the same thing. His name's Rob Thompson. And, I think what we're going to have with Rob Thompson now to answer the poll and why I agree is we're going to have a uniform lineup every day. The players are going to get to the ballpark. They're going to know where they're hitting the lineup. And that helps a lot in baseball. Baseball players.
Joe Girardi would never do that.
Never. It was a new lineup every night. He tinkered. He is tinker, as John Coyle likes to say, with the lineup all the time, and that accomplishes absolutely nothing. And we're getting a run with our young players. You say what you want about the Phillies developmental system, which is trash, by the way, but hopefully Dombrowski and the new guys they brought in the front office in the offseason can get it right. But they need time. It doesn't happen overnight, changing a culture in the farm system in the front office. So
well, let's be honest, though, Rob. Here's the problem with the Phillies right now. It all stems around Bryce Harper. Because Bryce Harper can't play right field, okay? You now have Nick Castellanos in right field, okay? And Nick is not the greatest defensive outfielder we've ever seen, to put it lightly. He's kind of not good in the outfield. He's a good hitter, not a good outfielder. Then you go into center, and you don't have that center fielder who's a real good defensive player. You had one, but he couldn't hit a lick, and that was Quinn. But the problem is he can't hit a lick, though. That's the problem.
He's not even on the team anymore. Well, he got designated for assignment. And he's back with the team because he went unclaimed, and he's in Lehigh Valley. Hopefully, he stays there.
Which is where he belongs. And then in left, you have Schwarber, who's also a terrible outfielder. The problem is you've got a lot of bad defensive players on this team right now, and for a pitching staff that after Nola and Wheeler doesn't really strike out a lot of guys, you need to have guys who can defend back there, who are good defensive players. It just makes a world of difference. If you take, and I'm not trying to rub it in about the Yankees, okay? So don't. I'm not making this about.
They're an excellent baseball team.
But of course, I watch almost every game except when the Rangers are on, of course. But you watch the Yankees. especially defensively now. They moved Torres back to second. They brought in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Okay? They got rid of Sanchez because he's the worst defensive catcher in baseball. And they brought in two guys, and they have two guys now who can't hit a lick, but they're real good defensive catchers. And this guy Trevino looks like he may have some promise. He's got a fairly decent arm, but in any event, they changed the culture of their team, and in the infield they catch everything. So as a result, guys like Tyone and Severino and Cortez. Well, Cortez has been great, but they know that they can throw strikes, and if the ball gets hit, that their guys are going to catch the ball. And that's a problem when you have a pitching staff that's not striking out a lot of guys, especially 3, 4, and 5, and they're afraid of contact because these guys are such bad fielders. It's a problem. And I don't know I just don't know during the season how you solve that.
No, you got to score, which they did over the weekend. And the starting pitching here in Philadelphia, it's been far from the problem. Wheeler's been really good.
Wheeler's been Wheeler, which you would expect. Nola's been pretty good. He's definitely been a solid number 2 pitcher. The rest of the staff has been okay. But the problem is also the bullpen is just not
horrendous.
Getting guys out. And they're allowing the other teams to get back in the game. And every time the bullpen blows a lead, the whole team has to be kind of slouching a little bit that's going on.
Especially when it happens night after night after
right.
night after night.
Right, and it's somehow it's got to stop. And Joe Girardi did not have the Yankees bullpen, so he actually really had to manage. Okay, and it just goes to show that he's not all that everybody thinks he was. He won a championship with the Yankees, and he kept the team over 500. But Yankees have always had a very talented team, even when they were rebuilding. They were over 500. They managed to always be respectable, even when they were trying to rebuild their team. And Jeter and Mo were leaving the team, and Teixeira was leaving the team, and they brought in everybody from scratch really came in new, and they were able to compete every day. But Joe was never the answer. And I'll tell you what, here's a Joe Girardi story. Maybe you remember this. Do you recall the Yankee-Indians series in 2018? Or was it 2017? Okay.
Sure. I mean, I bet you
that was the year.
Tell me about it right now.
That was the year that Didi Gregorius had 2 home runs in Game 5 to beat the Indians. When the Yankees were down 2-0, and they came back. But in one of the games in Cleveland, Gary Sanchez got actually was called out on strikes for swinging at a ball. Okay, and basically what happened was the ball was really way inside. The ball hit the knob of the bat, and the umpire called it a strike swinging. Okay, and a wild pitch. And it wasn't a wild pitch, but he called it strike 3 swinging when the ball clearly hit Sanchez's bat. Girardi wouldn't challenge it, and then he had a million excuses afterwards. And the broadcasters were screaming, "Why aren't you challenging it? Why aren't you challenging it? What is going on with Joe Girardi? Blah, 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 blah." But that was like the epicenter of the Joe Girardi stupidity era, as I call it. And that's what got him fired in New York, because he, no matter what anybody told him, he didn't listen. It was always his way or the highway, even when he was wrong.
And like another thing, and I know Tom Arnone's been screaming about it. I've been screaming about it. John Coyle's been screaming about it. Pretty much every year at HUD Radio and every Phillies fan everywhere has been screaming about it. He continuously played favorites with veterans that he was comfortable with that weren't good. Nick Nelson being example, Exhibit A.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
so now,
as I recall, he probably did the same thing with Neil Walker, because he used to do that with Neil Walker when he was on the Yankees. He loved Neil Walker, and he always made sure he played somehow for some reason, which used to baffle my mind how he needed at bats. He stunk. He was a lousy player. I think he brought him with him to Philadelphia, and he was even worse.
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee here, and yeah, he was out there more than he should have been. But now, You got Bohm. I want to see Bohm at third every day. I want to see Stott at short every day. And I want to see Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick in the entire MLB draft, 2015, overall pick. You lost 105 games to get him. We got to see what we got in him. So now we're not going to have these yo-yo guys. We're not going to see Odubel Herrera pinch hitting for Mickey Moniak. At least I think with this new guy that we're going to see and get a proper evaluation of these young guys.
You got to let them play. You got to let them play. You can't just bring them up and then sit them on the bench. You know, if you're going to bring them up, play them. If you're not going to play them, don't bring them up. Sitting them on the bench doesn't do any good. Okay, they need to be out there playing. And even if they have a couple of bad games, you got to keep letting them play.
So, and then, you know, Gene Segura, he's out for 12 weeks with a broken ring finger. He had surgery. I mean, he's hurt because Joe Girardi just didn't have a clue about situational baseball.
What happened that he got hurt? Because I knew he got hurt, but what happened that?
So there's a guy on first. I forget who was on first, but Gene was in the 2-hole. I guess it was Schwarber. Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Maybe it was Reese. I forget. He's on first. So then your only professional hitter outside of Bryce is Gene Segura. They square him around the bunt, right? And yeah, you move Schwarber to second, but you kill.
Why would you
kill your only 300 hitter on the team outside of Bryce? You know, Schwarber moves up to second, cool, but then you walk. They just like the Gabe Kapler and the Giants. They just walked Bryce. You took the bat right out of your best player's hands, right out of your two best players' hands. And in the process of Gene Segura trying to bunt, he gets nipped by a ball and he breaks his finger. So now you don't have Gene Segura and you have a significant hole, at least offensively, at your second base position. And we talked about yesterday being like an uplifting game where Bryce hits the grand slam and everyone's happy for Stott with the walk-off, his second career home run. That lifts a team. So many losses, Brad, dating back to Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, where they blew a 7-run lead to division rival Mets. Then you go to Atlanta and you lose a game on a drop fly ball after Bryce Harper brings you back yet again with a home run. By the way, what Bryce Harper is doing this season while injured is absolutely unbelievable. I know Goldschmidt's having a good year, and there's other guys in the National League having a good year, and Bryce probably won't get the MVP. If I'm true to myself, being like a DH guy shouldn't win the MVP. You know, I can't in good faith say he's the MVP, but he very well might win it as a DH, and he deserves it because this team is absolutely nothing without Bryce Harper. The only reason you stayed afloat this long with Joe Girardi being a complete buffoon out there is because Bryce Harper has been doing what he's doing while hurt. Then you have a drop fly ball in Atlanta, crushes the team. Just a gut-wrenching loss. The Cinco de Mayo game, gut-wrenching loss. I watched Dansby Swanson, the LA shortstop, score from first on a pass ball like it's an 8U Little League game. It's ridiculous.
You scored from first on a pass ball.
Yeah, so
from
there was
first?
So Dansby Swanson was on first. Wild pitch, pass ball, whatever it was, I forget. He goes to second. Romuto gets the ball, throws it to second. It gets through not only the two middle infielders, but Herrera's not paying attention, not backing up the play. It gets through him as well, and Dansby Swanson goes all the way around and scores. Then you have a game against the Giants where I don't want to say you lost because of this, but Janoris Familia goes in, who stinks. He's a batting practice pitcher. He lives in the upper part of the zone. It doesn't have the stuff to live in the upper part of the zone. He gets a ground ball left side of the infield. He's not covering first. So, like, these mistakes and these comedy of errors they kill the chemistry of the baseball team. So, yes, I have already noticed.
Now you know why I was busting your chops about Familia. He's a disaster.
He's terrible.
I can't imagine what they thought they had with him because, I mean, the Mets had him twice, and the first time they had him, he was okay. But last year he was terrible. He couldn't throw strikes. And you
have Hand, who's past his prime, but he's a lefty, so I understand why he's on the roster.
And I can understand because it's not, you do need to have a lefty in the bullpen, and if you use him properly against left-handed hitters, and there's already 2 outs or 1 out, and he only has to get an out or two, then you should be okay with that.
So the poll, I agree with the poll for basically 3. It's a new voice, which this team needed. They weren't listening to Joe, and Joe looked like a broken man out there, both in the game and at his post-game press conference, just totally broken, totally washed, had to go. We're going to get uniform lineups every night, defined roles, and our young players aren't going to be yo-yoed around like we like to say here on A2D Radio. You're going to have Moniak, you're going to have Stott, and you're going to have Bomer at third every night, and you're going to see what you got. And I'll live with mistakes with these guys. I will live with mistakes. If Moniak, doesn't hit, but he's fielding, that's fine. You got to have defense up the middle. If Stott is struggling, okay, fine, but let's run him out there. Let's see what we got. And now it's on Dombrowski. Now it's on Dave Dombrowski, who I trust, at least long-term, to build a winner here. But you need to get bullpen guys in here now. And if that costs me Rhys Hoskins and I can move Schwarber to first, so be it. Because I do believe that Nick Castellanos is going to get his numbers at the plate sooner or later. Did you see that
he's professional? Listen, he's a professional hitter. He's
so the joke around Philly right now, Brad, is so Nick Castellanos, he purchased Ben Simmons' old house here in Philadelphia in May, and he's hit like 190 since. So
it's Ben Simmons' fault.
So Ben Simmons, the stench of Ben Simmons.
That's a little bit. That might be a little bit much, but okay.
Well, that's just what it's going. And JT Realmuto, say what you want about him defensively, framing pitches, fielding the position. I do believe that he's going to get his numbers from an offensive perspective. Bryce is Bryce. Hopefully you get Gene back at some point, which probably looks August-ish at this point because he's at 12 weeks. Then he's got a rehab and the whole thing. And hopefully these kids can develop and give you something. So, yes, I've seen improvement. My benchmark is 500 by 4th of July. Just win some series in June, get yourself to 500, and then July 4th, you're 0-0, and you can maybe make a run at one of these 3 wild card spots. 3 wild card spots. If you're paying luxury tax and you can't be in the top 7 of the National League, I think we both agree that the National League is the weaker of the 2 leagues in Major League Baseball. Yeah, that's a huge problem, and it's unacceptable. We got John Malmos in the chat. What's up, guys? Have you guys on the phone? Jesse Waters on TV. Let's pump the brakes with the Phillies. Yes, their schedule is much favorable going on, but the pen and defense, I mean, they just won 4 in a row and are still 11 games back of the Mets. Look, I'm putting the division aside, John. I'm putting the division aside until
we're not going to catch the Mets.
Because Atlanta's going to heat up too. Atlanta does this all the time. They scuffle in the early part of the season, and then they're good players, play like the back of their baseball cards, and they get themselves right back in the Mets. So I'm putting them.
Think of it this way, though, Rob. I mean, in the Mets, as much as I can't stand the Mets, they're going to get Scherzer back pretty soon. It sounds like DeGrom is going to be coming back after the All-Star break. So, which is the middle of July. That's going to be like they made a trade to get 2 premier pitchers to add to what's already been a pretty solid pitching staff this year. And
McGill has been hurt too, who was good for them.
Yep. And you take a look, they managed to get a split against the Dodgers in LA, the Mets. I mean,
the Dodgers are in a little bit of a funk, but yeah, good for them for taking advantage. I mean, I think they got swept by the Pirates and they get a split with the Mets. So.
And you guys beat them up too a couple of weeks ago.
So Mike Collins, trade Hoskins, and bring up Hall from AAA. Look, I don't even know who Hall is. If I don't know who he is, then he's not on the Major League radar. You have solutions at first base on this team. If you were to trade Rhys Hoskins for some bullpen help, like Rhys Hoskins, he makes some money, but not a ridiculous amount of money. So, like,
you could put Schwarber at first, or you could also put Castellanos at first. Either one of them can play first base.
Well, you have Herrera, who, as much as we rip him and he's a knucklehead, he is a major league player at this point. He's a major league. I prefer him as a 4th outfielder as opposed to starting, but he can play left. You got Moniak in center, Castellanos in right. You just put Schwarber at first. So that's my solution: is to trade Rhys for some bullpen.
And you also make your defense way better.
Way better. And that's saying a lot because Odubel Herrera is far from a Gold Glover. Far from a Gold Glover.
He's
But,
okay.
I mean,
He's an average player.
Like if a team in the race, like why don't we hit up Tampa Bay if they want to add some pop and we get a few of their get a bullpen arm from them for Reese. Like that would be something I'm into. Derek Bednar from Pittsburgh, he's an outstanding closer, having a tremendous season. Like maybe they want to add some pop because they don't have many position players. You know, that's something that should be looked at. The Angels are falling.
Speaking about Pittsburgh, I'll tell you one guy who's going to get traded from there and they're going to get something good. Is Quintana.
Bring him in and put Ranger Suarez in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I mean Quintana right now is pitching lights out for the Pirates. He would not be a bad solution for any team. I mean David Peralta on Arizona, he wouldn't be a bad fit to bring in either.
But I have enough offense here in Philadelphia.
You think? All right,
I do.
He'd be a nice player. He'd be a nice player off the bench, though.
Bryce Schwarber, Bohm's been hitting, Castellanos and Realmuto. You're going to get Gene back at some point, hopefully. Like that's enough.
You should be able to score some runs, but they do have to figure out what their bullpen's been unsettled all season, and they've got to figure out a way to get that settled. And you know, at this point, it's hard to make trades because nobody really knows where they're at right now. You know, I mean, a couple of teams have assumed the position of getting their brains beaten, like the Tigers, for example, the Kansas City Royals. You know, it seems like them. They've assumed the position, but most of the other teams nobody's really assumed the position yet.
Right, that makes it harder to trade because with the extra wild card slots, 7 teams in each league. Right, it's 7, right? Not 6.
7, yeah.
7 in each. You know, make the postseason. That keeps everyone in the mix for longer.
It's 6, but still, that's a lot. There's three divisions and 3 wild.
3 wild, so 6. Okay, and it's gonna be like the NFL playoffs. The top two get buys, and like it puts it at because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you're a wild card team, you're gonna play a 3-game series against a division winner, and the wild card team is going to be on the road for all 3 games. Which
kind of makes you really want to win the division.
Correct.
You can.
So
yeah, that's
there's another one. Mike Collins checking us out on Facebook. Would the Phillies ever think of bringing David Robertson back? He's doing well with the Cubs. Yeah, he was here. He was hurt. He's pitching really well for the Cubs. That could be a good option.
David Robertson, there's going to be a lot of teams after him. And you know,
that's also the problem with bullpen because the Dodgers, the Braves, the Yankees, the Red Sox, all these teams are going to be looking to add bullpen help to, you know, bolster their potential postseason run. Astros, like that's one thing you can never have enough of. And all these teams that I just mentioned have a better farm system than the Phillies to go out and maybe overpay for a piece that might put you over the top now. So Dombrowski's going to have his work cut out for him. So that's why I'd be trying to, you know, strike early, get a guy in here now. If it costs you Reese, it costs you Reese. So be it. I mean, look, you're putting your baseball team subject to prolonged slumps when you have your top 2 hitters in the lineup right now with Gene out being Schwarber and Hoskins. They're the same player. Like, yeah, they walk some, they have some pop, but like they're going to hit 230. And like, I don't think that's conducive to, you know, winning series after series after series like the Phillies need to do to get them back in the hunt like they do. Rob Povey is in the house. He agrees to the poll. He sees an improvement. And look, I get it. We're still in like this feeling out phase. Like, is this just like a flash in the pan improvement because there's a new voice and then they're going to go out? I don't even know who they play in their next series. I'll have to look it up. But are they going to give this sweep right back like they did when they went on their West Coast trip and we thought everything was going to be all fine and dandy? And they come back home and lose 6 of 8 and give it all back? I'm not sure. But like, I'm encouraged by the new voice. I'm encouraged to see the young guys play. And I'm encouraged to see the uniform lineup with defined roles because you need that.
I'll tell you what, Rob, they have to go to Milwaukee this week.
This is a
They
great
got-
time
they
to
got-
get. This is a
This is
great time to get
play the
Milwaukee.
Brewers. This is a good time to play the Brewers. I mean, right now, Freddie Peralta's out. Who's the other one that's out?
Woodruff's
They have-
out, so they still have Corbin Burns and Eric Lauer, who's a Cy Young candidate in his own right, at least so far this season. But yeah, you have 40% ace caliber pitchers for the Brewers on the shelf. So can the Phillies take advantage? Can they build on this 4-game winning streak and get themselves back in the mix? I'd like to think so.
Well, timing can be everything. I want to go like to hockey for a minute and just try to give you guys the optimism factor. Before the Pittsburgh Penguins ran off those 2 cups in 17 and 18, they were struggling that season. And then they went and they fired their coach, and they brought in Sullivan. And Sullivan's still here. And they just, they won 2 Stanley Cups. Now, okay, they've been struggling once they make the playoffs in the last 4 years. But, that's a great team that's getting old and losing it. But sometimes when the right voice comes in the room, sometimes the chemistry just connects and they start playing better. It's hard to pinpoint exactly why sometimes, but it does work.
Remember the 03 Marlins, Brad?
Yep.
I
Look
mean,
at the 78 Yankees, Rob. They were 14 games out of first place. They fired Billy Martin and they brought in Bob Lemon because they thought Billy was too much of a hothead. So they brought in a nice, quiet guy, unassuming guy. And then all of a sudden the Yankees came back, beat out the Red Sox, won that playoff game, and then went on to beat the Dodgers in the World Series. They beat Kansas City, and then they won the World Series against the Dodgers.
That's Bucky Dent, right?
That was the Bucky Dent.
That was Bucky Dent, right? But
Yeah.
the 03 Marlins, they fire their guy in the middle of the season. They bring in old-timer Jack McKeon, and, the little engine that could, the Florida Marlins, they beat the big, bad, mighty Yankees, and that was kind of like really the last stand for that kind of core you guys had. So, there's precedent for this team to, man, I'm not going to sit here and say the Philly, put your World Series bets in or anything like that, because there's a lot of good teams in the National League.
They have a lot of high-end talent on the team.
Yeah, and hopefully the New York – I have seen a better approach to hitting over the weekend. I know a very small sample size, but, like Tom Arnone commented, like the players woke up. Players said, okay, Dave Dombrowski's not going to put up with this. Mr. Middleton is not going to put up with this. We're pretty much responsible for getting Joe Girardi fired. So, now it's our turn to wake up and get the bats going and field the ball and make good fundamental baseball plays and rattle off series. I'm not going to sit here and say the Phillies need to rattle off 10 in a row because that's unrealistic and very hard to do. But what you do have to do is start winning series. So 500 by 4th of July, reset the clock at 4th of July, 0-0, and then go from there. Maybe you put Bryce on the DL, a week before the All-Star break. And so he has a week before the All-Star break. Maybe you have him sit a week after the All-Star break, and maybe that can liven up his elbow. So, there's still time. And Dave Dombrowski said that in his comments after firing Joe Girardi. They feel like there's still time for them to play October baseball. And I 100% agree with that. And I do believe in David Robertson. He's at least going to try and improve this baseball team as the season progresses and we move towards the trade deadline. But to John Malmos' comment, I'm putting the division aside until further notice. The Mets are playing great baseball. They got a lot of talent. They bought a lot of talent. They were aggressive in the offseason. It's paying dividends. Pete Alonso has been great. Jeff McNeil's been great. Starling Marte has been great. Chris Bassett, who they traded to, has been great. And like you said, they're essentially trading for DeGrom and Scherzer when they come back to bolster that rotation. So, and then the Braves are the Braves. Championship pedigree.
Yeah,
they always
world champions. And Matt Chapman is doing okay. He not Matt Chapman. I'm sorry.
Olsen. Yeah.
Olsen is doing. I always get those guys mixed up. Olsen is doing pretty well for the Braves. Listen, he's not Freeman, But you know what? You could do a lot worse at first base than Matt Olson. That's for
Well,
sure.
he's a great glove and he's got power.
Yep.
So like
And he's
we're
left-handed,
putting the
too.
division on hold unless this team really goes on a special run in June and gets, within 4 or 5 games.
See, I thought that they should have fired him after the Mets swept the Phillies because I just thought that series, the Philly, because I saw a couple of those games and they looked lifeless against the Mets.
Dreadful.
I mean, the Mets went out there and beat the hell out of them, and that shouldn't be happening.
Mike Collins, another great comment. Mike killing it tonight in the comments, checking us out on Facebook. Team's still the same, yes, but he's noticed a different usage in the bullpen. Yes, I think Sir Anthony Dominguez being the closer of this baseball team is imminent. Absolutely imminent. And he's got the best stuff in the bullpen. I know we hear that a lot. Guys have great stuff, and they come in and they can't throw strikes, so they leave it up in the zone. They can't control it, whatever. But I think Sir Anthony is your answer at closer. Like, I don't need for Dave Dombrowski to go out and trade for Josh Hader, Liam Hendricks, Mariano Rivera, anything like that. I need a guy that can go in there and keep the team afloat if Ranger Suarez is going to go out there and throw 80 pitches in 4 2/3 inning. I need a guy like Nola in the 6th inning this year, as good as he's been in the first 5, he lets it go. He folds the 3rd time through the lineup. So I need to be able to pull him after 5, unless he looks spectacular, or pull him in the middle of the 5th, short of the 6th inning, quality start benchmark.
Well,
and have guys that I can put in that can get guys out. They don't have that right now.
Yeah, after 5 innings, you have to be on a batter by batter observatory to make sure that everything's under control. That makes it very hard.
And Kyle Gibson, he's our 3rd guy. I mean, I love Kyle Gibson. Is he Cy Young? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that, but he comes out there, he battles, he's professional, he's prepared, and he keeps the team in games. Eflin threw a gem. I think he won the 10-0 game on Friday night. He threw an absolute gem. And you know what? Thompson, Matchbox 20, he was cruising. He left him in there. He probably could have let him finish the baseball game. He pulled him after 8, and they gave I forget who they put in.
Yeah, but that's okay. You don't want to throw that many pitches. You don't.
Brad, we don't like. Don't you understand? If we pull him after 6, like that 10-0 lead's in jeopardy.
Well, 6 is one. Yeah, but there's a big difference between pulling him after the 8th and pulling him after the 6th, though.
But I understand. But I feel like Girardi would have pulled okay, you gave us 6 strong, we're going to give it to the bullpen. And then you're sweating it out and potentially losing even though you're up 10-0. No lead is safe with this bullpen. And Corey Knebel is, we talk about it all the time here on the Sports Hounds and with my Philadelphia teams and your New York teams, like some guys can handle the heat of the Northeast corridor and loud, obnoxious fans like New York, Philly, Boston, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and those markets, and some guys cannot. And Corey Knebel cannot.
No.
Like every time he blows a game, you're just gonna go in your press conference and shrug your shoulders and be like, "Oh, it's baseball. Shit happens." You might think that in your head. You can't say that out loud. You can say that out loud in Kansas City, or St. Louis, or Pittsburgh,
or Minnesota,
something Cleveland, a market like that, and no one's gonna bat an eye. But that doesn't fly here. And he's been terrible. We were hopeful that he could maybe lock down the 9th inning and be okay. And he was okay in the first part, but he's not it. He's not it in the 9th inning. And that's why I kind of scratched my head.
It makes the Hector Neris move look bad.
Pete Evans, he's in the house. Check him out on Birds of a Feather every Thursday here on A2D Radio after Pro Fan Talk with Marcus Thomas. Saw online today our man Marcus. He's been nominated for the 2023 College Football Hall of Fame. He was a running back at Eastern Kentucky, so I hope he gets in, and we're happy to have him here at A2D Radio. So shout out to Marcus. You should check him out every Thursday night at 7, and then check Pete and Chuck's out. Chrome checks in sometimes. Different guys check in on Birds of a Feather. They talk all things Eagles, and we talked about football a little bit on the rant booth yesterday. Like it's fast approaching. These summer, the mini camps and training camps and the regular season, it's right around the corner. Football never ends. But Pete, he agrees to the poll. Short term, so far so good. And that's well said because it's a small sample size. But I'm encouraged. I don't dread putting on the Phillies now. I'm interested again. Interested. Am I all in? Playoffs, NLCS, World Series? No, not yet. But I'm back to being interested in this baseball team and not rolling my eyes at the TV every time they make a mental mistake. And I think that goes a long way. I'm going to the game on Friday against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm going to get my Bryce Harper bobblehead doll.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
going to be fun. If anyone's down there, hit me up on Facebook, just slide in my DMs, grab a beer and, watch the game with our Bryce Harper bobblehead dolls. Jimmy Wadlaw, is Bryce going to win another MVP this season? Jimmy, he's going to have to no, I don't think he's going to win the MVP because I think maybe a DL stint or two. His elbow's a ticking time bomb. It's a ticking time bomb. I mean, he's done a good job with management. He's getting those PRP shots, whatever that is. That seemed to help, but he had to miss a game because he's sore. So, I would be an advocate, July 15th, you put him on the DL and bring him back after the All-Star break. I think that's a good way to manage this elbow. And I will never vote for a guy who solely played DH for an entire season for MVP. I was against David Ortiz for both the Hall of Fame and the MVPs that he won. I'm sure there's been other DHs that have been in the mix for MVPs, but you can't win MVP playing half the game. So I have to be consistent.
No, I
in
agree
my
with
takes.
You.
But he's a tremendous player, and he's the straw that stirs the drink here in Philadelphia, and this team is nothing without him. So if that's your criteria for the MVP, he's doing his part. And, there's good guys in the National League. I think Goldschmidt would probably be my MVP right now. He's just murdering the baseball down in St. Louis.
He's been something else this year. He really has.
And, I'm watching Sunday. I'm working at all campus on Sundays. Didn't work today, but, the Cardinals were on Sunday Night Baseball, and they just talk about a team that does everything the right way. Absolutely everything. They run the bases.
They're a good
defend.
fundamental team.
They situate. So, there was a sac fly. Schwindel hit a sacrifice fly to right field. So he throws it home. There's 2 outs, mind you. So it's second and third. So they let the run scores. Goldschmidt cuts it off, and they get Ian Happ for the third out at third base. That's a huge.
Those are the kind of plays winning teams make, though.
Correct. So you give up a run, okay, but you limit the damage to 1.
The inning,
it's just a heady, fundamental baseball play by Paul Goldschmidt to see out of the corner of his eyes that Ian Happ is late tagging up, and you can cut the baseball off and get him at third and be out of the inning. Not to mention Brendan Donovan, their right fielder, didn't try and play hero ball and get the ball all the way home. He hit the cutoff man, and they were able to cut the guy tagging from second to third. That's the kind of things I need to start seeing from this baseball team in order for me to get all in Rob Brinkman with this team. But I'm encouraged. Don't worry. I'm encouraged. Phillies did that in the 9th yesterday. Yeah, they did. They did. And that goes to why I'm encouraged. But the Cardinals, they do it year in, year out, game after game. It's just part of the culture down there.
Speaking of the Phillies' counterpart, the Angels, do you think Madden's feeling a little heat now?
Okay, well, Joe Madden is the most overrated manager in baseball history.
They've lost 11 in a row,
It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And they have talent there. They have Ohtani. Rendon's hurt, which has been a theme for him since he left Washington and signed the big contract there in Los Angeles. But you have Mike Trout. Mike Trout's 0 for his last 26.
Yeah, and who Ward just got put on
Ward's
the
on
IL.
the DL. He's been excellent.
Yeah,
you have guys like Jared Walsh.
Walsh isn't hitting like he did last year.
Marsh is just a marginal guy. Syndergaard has been average. So they got some problems out there.
Syndergaard has been what he was with the Mets, Rob. When he was good, he was really, really good. But then he has games where he's bad and he just keeps hanging his changeup and he gets destroyed.
So yeah, they got some problems out there in Los Angeles. And Joe Madden, I think he's the most overrated manager in Major League Baseball history. And he's a nice man. I went in the Cubs clubhouse in 2015 when we had press credentials, if you remember.
Yes.
With a different station. So like instead of going into the Phillies locker room, which was just a dreadful team in 2015, they lost 105 games and they got the first pick in the draft. I decided to go in the Cubs locker room and see how winners do it. And he was a very nice man. I asked him a question. He gave me a great elaborate answer. But I mean, outside of 2015, like what's he done? I get he had some good things with the Rays, but like
well,
clearly,
he did win the championship with the Cubs that one year.
Yeah, he's got that. So he's been riding that for now. It's 22 now, Brad. So that was 7 years ago.
I'm just saying, but yeah, just like Joe Girardi, how long can he ride the 2009 Yankees?
But like clearly the Rays win because their player development, their scouting, and their general manager and their front office give the manager the tools to be great. And, you know, you see Joe Madden go to a big market where he has talent. They do spend money. They have a good closer. They have Trout, Rendon, Ohtani, and all these different guys. And he can't get it done ever. And they're wasting Mike Trout's prime. It's sad. So, yeah, I think that
Mike Trout has been, I don't.
Well,
I mean, obviously, I didn't see him play against the Phillies this weekend.
He didn't get any hits.
I did see him. He looked terrible in Yankee Stadium.
Hey, you know,
his fielding was bad too.
Who's that?
Trout. He was fielding poorly too.
Yeah, and like I can kind of give him a pass. It's kind of explainable because like he's coming east for the first time this season. He's got all his family and friends in there. Everyone's bugging him for tickets in Philadelphia and New York, which they were before the series. So I can understand him being a little distracted. I mean, he was having a great season before this little funk that he's in, but I mean, they're just not getting it done. And yeah, change might be imminent there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is pressure. There is pressure in Los Angeles. Don't kid yourself. For the Angels and Dodgers, their press can be nasty too. So I might be thinking that they might possibly, if the Angels don't wake up, and they got a tough 3 games this week, boy, with the Red Sox in town. It's going to be they're going to be in some deep doo-doo, and I think you may see a new manager in.
Yeah, and that's really the premier game of this limited, at least in my opinion, of this limited Monday slate we have here in Major League Baseball. It's going to be the Angels and the Red Sox at 9:30-ish.
Yeah, I mean the Red Sox have just about climbed back to 5. I think maybe they have climbed back to 500, but.
All right, so Brad here, we got Blue City Empire Sports. He checks in often here on YouTube. He's got a couple Yankees questions. Miguel Andujar, first off, everything's dandy in Yankee land. You have 4 ace caliber pitchers right now, and Aaron Judge.
Actually, 5.
Well, Montgomery, yeah, he's been pretty good as well. But the Taillon, Severino, I think it was Saturday he pitched. I mean,
Severino's been
down.
unbelievable.
He's throwing strikes, his breaking ball, his fastball is working. Cole almost threw a perfect game his last outing. Cortez has been absolutely outstanding. And then you have Jordan Montgomery as your 5th guy with a 3.04 ERA.
And Taillon.
Like, everything's.
Taillon had a perfect game last night for 7 innings. Last week for 7 innings.
So you almost had back-to-back perfect games in the Bronx.
And then Severino on Saturday pitched a 1-hitter.
And Aaron Judge is probably the American League MVP. That makes me sad because I have some money on Devers being the MVP, who's right there. But Aaron Judge is just on a different level. He wants $400 million. He deserves $400 million.
He does. I mean, 21 home runs and batting .315. Listen, you know what? The Yankees the last couple of weeks have had a lot of injuries. You know, you had Donaldson and Stanton out, and Judge just keeps hitting home runs, and the Yankees keep winning games because they only have to score 3 runs to win because their pitching is so good.
So
regarding Andujar, though, and I want to answer Blue City.
There you
Empire
go. Why don't you
Sports.
take it away on Miguel Andujar?
Yeah, here's the deal, and it's very simple. Okay, he's mad because Aaron Hicks sucks, as we all know. And if you've seen my posts on Facebook, you know how I feel about Aaron Hicks, and he's hitting about 220, or if that, and he's useless with runners on base. He can't throw anymore. He's a lousy outfielder. He's just a lousy baseball player and should not be here. However, he's still signed for another 3 years and $30 million, so he's not going anywhere. Joey Gallo is one of the worst players I've ever seen. Suit up for the Yankees. If you throw a high fastball, he couldn't hit it with a freaking paddle. Okay, now you get Miguel, but he's making $12 million this year. Now you have Miguel Andujar, who's in the first year of arbitration. Okay, and it still has options left. And the key here, Blue City Sports, is he has options left. So if the Yankees let Hicks or Gallo go, they have to DFA him. Okay, they can't send him to the minors. Andujar they can send to the minors, and unfortunately they keep doing it. Now, Andujar was really good. He's a good hitter. Okay, and he's proven that over and over and over again. His fielding has gotten a lot better. He is a Major League Baseball player right now that is stuck in the wrong situation.
Well, let me ask you this, because they went out and signed Matt Carpenter to kind of fill the void when Donaldson had COVID. He had a banged up shoulder, and he had the whole incident with Tim Anderson that I guess he served the suspension already, or is he appealing his suspension? Not sure what's going on.
He's appealing it, but it's one game. I mean, they can do with that.
Yeah, I get it. It's fine. It's just an off day.
Yeah, exactly.
But they go out and sign Matt Carpenter to be like the utility guy. They bat him fourth sometimes, and they keep Andujar in the minors. Why?
Oh, because they wanted a left-handed bat to fill in every once in a while.
Is that a Cashman thing? Is that a Boone thing? Is that
no? That's a Cashman thing, because they know that they need some left-handed hitters that can come off the bench and hit. Okay, all their bench players were right-handed. Okay, Marwin Gonzalez is left-handed, but Marwin Gonzalez is not an offensive player. And they're calling him the stash in New York right now. So
Carpenter?
Yeah, because you are allowed to have a mustache in the Bronx. You just can't have a beard.
Tom Hederick, Yankees should trade Judge at the deadline. I mean, that's a brutal take.
First of all, the Yankees are going to re-sign Judge. Okay, they're just going to pay more for him. But they still get the 10 days after the season's over to sign Judge. So, it's not over by any stretch of the imagination. If the Yankees want to keep him, they can keep him, and then they're going to get rid of Gallo will be gone, as will his $12 million contract. Britton will be gone, and as will his $14 million contract. So there's $26 million right off the bat, off the top of my head, that's going to be gone. They're probably going to get rid of Chapman, who's another $17 million. So now you got $43 million. Okay, so you know what? With that $43 million, they'll sign Judge, so they'll be fine.
AL West, Yordan Alvarez, he gets paid. Astros look like the cream of the crop yet again in that division. Yeah,
Yordan Alvarez is a big-time hitter.
He bringing up the standings here. We kind of dissect them here in the American League. What's going on in Chicago, Brad? White Sox aren't good. They're 2 games below 500. They're 5 games back of the Twins. They can't seem to stay healthy. They can't seem to be consistent.
Their pitching sucks. That's other than one guy who's pitching great on that team.
Dylan Cease is pitching pretty good.
Cease has been okay. Who's the one that's really?
They have Giolito. They have
Giolito hasn't been good. Neither they have one guy that's really pitched well for them. I just can't remember his name. But their bullpen's been pretty bad. They're not hitting. They're playing poorly defensively. And they're in an awful division, and they still aren't winning. So that tells you they have a long way to go. Something is not right in Chicago. Maybe it's La Russa. I don't know. He's another one that's
his prime there, La Russa.
La Russa is another one that shouldn't be managing right now. Okay, I think he's holding that team back as well.
But yeah, I mean, Tim Anderson's out, so you got Josh Harrison in the lineup. I mean, Giolito and Cease are good. Kopech is pitching well.
Kopech has been great this year.
He's pitching well, but I mean, they're like that Craig Kimbrell for AJ Pollock swap they did a couple of days before the season. That's not working out for them at all.
Pollock hasn't done much at all.
And Kimbrell is Kimbrell out in Los Angeles. Like, he's been pretty good. The Dodgers needed bullpen help. So, yep. I mean, and the Twins are good. The
Twins actually have some pitching now.
Tom Henry, why would you give a 30-year-old a massive contract? Because he's Aaron Judge and he's earned it.
First of all, he's the face of the New York Yankees. Okay? He's going to probably hit close to 60 home runs this year. Okay? He's already hit 52 in his career. The guy is an outstanding outfielder. He's got a great arm. He can run. He can throw. He's going to be in the playoffs every year. Why would you not pay him? Guy's a great player.
Players, I say it all the time. Good players big players get big money. That's just the way it is. And Aaron Judge, like Bryce Harper here in Philadelphia, it goes past baseball. Like, he's the face of the franchise. He puts asses in the seats.
Exactly. You know? When he's up, everybody stops what they're doing to watch him bat because they want to see if he's going to hit a 500-foot home run.
So you have, the box office factor there as well.
Yeah, and also here's the other thing. Everybody likes Aaron Judge. There's not one. I've never heard one person in the New York media say one thing about him, about his personality or anything else. He's a very nice, polite guy. You see him in between innings playing catch, and during batting practice playing catch with kids in the stands. How many guys do that?
Not a lot.
That's he's a class act. I hope the Yankees keep him. I'm pretty sure that financially they'll be able to clear out enough money to pay him. I think they wanted to see if he could play a whole season without getting hurt. He did so last year. He had 39 home runs. This year he hasn't been hurt. He's been healthy. He's got what, 21, and it's the beginning of June. I mean, that's like where guys like Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle used to live when they were
20 times 3. Yeah. I mean, you're not far off with the 60-game prediction. And if he's going to bat over 300 and hit you 60 home runs, I mean, that's the MVP right there.
I think that he has a chance to break Roger Maris's Yankee record. I really do.
Which is what, 61?
Yeah. I really think he's got a shot. When you watch him play, Rob, okay, he's a right-handed hitter. But if you notice, almost all his home runs, where do they go? Right field.
Yeah, he's a big oppo guy, which means he's a pure hitter.
Yeah, he can hit he hits more home runs to right than he does to left. Okay, and in Yankee Stadium, that's where to go.
Yeah, you got the short porch and right. So
exactly, and so it's not his fault. He's just smart. He's always done that. Luke Voit used to do that. When he was here. If Luke Voit didn't get hurt all the time, he'd be at first base instead of Rizzo. But speaking of Rizzo's been a real good player too for them. He's been very solid for them. He's great defensively. He's a clutch hitter. I know the average isn't very high right now, but when there's runners on base, he's knocking them in.
Try to look at the rest of the American League here. The East, a lot of good teams in the East.
Toronto is an outstanding team. The Rays are always good. The Red Sox are starting to play better now. Although
they've won 4 in a row, 6-4 in their last 10.
Yeah, they're
back to having a plus run differential. How about our old friend in Philadelphia, Nick Pivetta? Pitching like a Cy Young candidate thus far. He's lights out.
That's because he was playing on my team, on my fantasy team, and then I let him go. And the rule is, as soon as Brad lets you go, then you become a great player.
You pop a little bit,
like Tyler Anderson.
But yeah, I mean, this East is a dogfight because the Central, I think, the way it stands right now, I mean, you only have one team over 500 in the AL Central. Seattle isn't what we thought they were going to be in the West.
Huge disappointment there. Huge disappointment. I thought with Robbie Ray going there that was going to make a huge difference. I mean, it's made a huge difference in Toronto because they obviously can't really replace him. But Robbie Ray has pitched great, but they're not hitting at all. And once again, they lost Mitch Haniger, so that's just kind of rubbing.
And Toronto did a great job, replacing Robbie Ray. Gaussman's been great. Alex Mona's been great.
The rest have been mediocre. But that's kind of what you would expect.
When you have that lineup, you can.
Well, the lineup has not performed this year. That's been part of their problem, and it doesn't help that what's his name, Bichette is not having a great year. Guerrero is playing well, but Bichette's
power's
not
there.
Huh?
His power's there.
Yeah, but his average is really low now.
And Teoscar Hernandez, he's starting to heat up.
Yeah, but he's
had a good couple of weeks here, but he's been dreadful.
He's been dreadful all season. So and now Jansen is taking over behind the plate for Kirk, and it seems like Jansen is hitting the ball like crazy, and Kirk is settled into the DH role. So look, that team can still hit. Matt Chapman is who Matt Chapman is. He's maybe the best fielder in the world at third base, but he's going to strike out 3,000 times. He may hit a few home runs, but he's going to be a liability at home in the batter's box. But Toronto is still a team you still have to be very worried about if you're the New York Yankees in the playoffs. I don't think any team is going to catch the Yankees in the East this year. The Yankees just look so solid right now.
It's hard for me to pick against the Yankees right now in terms of winning the American League. I mean, how are you going to have an extended losing streak and even a tough division like the American League East when you have Cortez, Cole, Tyon, Montgomery, and Severino as your five? Barring injury, you're not going to be losing extending. You're not going to have extending losing streaks.
Right, and they're all having. I mean, other than Cole, they're all having career years. There are some years when guys have career year when one or two guys have career years. When your entire pitching staff is having a career year, that just makes it almost impossible. It's like the 2010 Phillies when they had those four aces.
And Blanton was no slouch.
No, he was as a number 5. He was fine. Probably the best 5 pitcher in the league.
And they won a World Series with Joe Blanton as your 3.
Yep.
Maybe arguably your 2. So that's how you limit losing streaks, and they smack the ball around like that lineup. I mean, unless they all go cold at once and score no runs,
that's happened a couple of times. But you know what? For the most part, they went and they brought some guys who make contact, and don't strike out as much, and it's paying dividends. As you know, since you have Gleyber Torres, I think on your fantasy team.
I do. He's heating up.
He's been pretty good this year since they put him back at second base. You think, what does he have? 10 home runs now? I mean, he's been really solid now. And Donaldson started to come around until he got hurt. And LeMahieu is LeMahieu, and Judge and Stanton are great. I mean, there's no two ways about it. They're going to score enough runs, and they'll figure it out. Their pitching is holding everybody to 2 runs a game, though.
All right, this is A2D Monday Nights. We're the Sports Sounds. He's Brad Ryer, Rob Brinkman. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. Download us wherever you get your podcasts. If you miss an episode, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. We're brought to you by Off Campus on the Ocean City Boardwalk between 10th and 11th Street. Proud sponsor of the Ramp Booth every Sunday morning here at 11:30. We're also brought to you by Aria Public Adjusting. Don't fight your homeowner's insurance alone. No need to. We got Aria Public Adjusting locked and loaded to be on your side. Brad, let's move on to hockey. We got live action right now. Colorado advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals appears to be imminent. That game's going on right now. 6 minutes to go left in the first period. Avalanche just killed off an Edmonton power play. Colorado leads the game 1-0. They lead the series 3-0. This is just a matter of time before the Edmonton Oilers are sent packing. Avalanche, just an embarrassment of riches. They're going to be tough to beat.
Oh, they may be impossible to beat. They're really good. Whoever plays them in the finals, whether it's the Rangers or Tampa Bay, it's going to be real tough to beat that team. That team is so loaded.
And then Eastern Conference Finals, that's going to be a dogfight. Home ice has served so far.
Yep.
Tampa gets a goal with 40 seconds left yesterday. All hands on deck yesterday for Tampa Bay. They're the champs. They showed why. They were down, I believe, 2-0, Brad.
Well, they got a lot of help from the officials.
Here we go.
Let's put it this way: calling penalties that aren't penalties because you don't want the Lightning to lose is kind of a very bad way to officiate.
Isn't it better for the league and better for ratings if the New York market is in the Stanley Cup Finals?
No, it's better for the league and it's better for ratings if the Stanley Cup champions are playing the best team in hockey this year.
Okay. So Game 4 is going to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, Game 4. All I would say is this. Tampa Bay is getting away with a lot of bullshit bumping the Rangers goalie all the time because they have so much trouble scoring on them. Yesterday was a perfect example of some of the crap they're getting. They're high sticking Shesterkin. They're bumping into him. On the Stamkos goal, there was a guy standing in the crease with both feet, okay, and screening Shesterkin, and Shesterkin could barely see the puck, and they score. You're not allowed to screen a guy and stand in the crease, okay? Yet the officials let that go, and it's a goal. And they call 3 penalties on Trouba. I only thought he deserved 1. That game yesterday, official-wise, was terrible. However, I will say this: the Rangers in the third period were also terrible and let Tampa Bay do whatever they wanted. They went into a defensive shell just like they did against Carolina in Game 1 of the previous series, and you can't do that, especially on the road, especially against the Stanley Cup champions. You're going to have to take a nail and nail it right in the middle of their hearts to knock them out of the playoffs. That team's not going to go away. And I think the Rangers got a little too cocky when it was 2-0. I think they took their foot off the gas, and then they called that ridiculous penalty on Trouba, and that got them going. And then they, went from 2-0 to 2-1, and really that was a gut check performance by the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was gut check time. You're down 2-0. You're in your own building, and you're down 2-0. Midway through the second period, something had to change.
And, their stars stepped up. Kucherov gets the goal.
Yep.
They take advantage. Whether you agree with them, they're supposed to be penalties or not, or they're not penalties, doesn't matter. They were penalties, and Tampa Bay lit the lamp, I think, twice on the power play, right?
Yes. They scored twice on the power play. They scored the only 5-on-5 goal, too, with the goal with 41 seconds to go. But if you want to look at it optimistically as a Ranger fan, you have to think that, well, you know what? It took them, a miracle goal with 40 seconds to go at home just to beat them one game. Okay? And the Rangers, for the most part, until the third period of yesterday's game, have outplayed Tampa territorially. I don't care about shots on goal. Shots on goal to me are no big deal. It's quality opportunities, and when there've been quality opportunities, the Rangers have been scoring, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have not. You got to think the Rangers, no matter what, they have home ice advantage. Okay, this is a little different for them. They don't have to win a game in Tampa Bay like they had to win a game in Carolina. They don't have to, but it would sure be a hell of a lot easier if they could find a way to win tomorrow and really put the pressure on Tampa Bay coming back to the Garden for Game 5.
The Garden's been popping.
Yeah, if the Rangers come home with a chance to clinch that series in Game 5, I think they will do it. But I hope they don't get overconfident, because you know what? Tampa Bay is still the Stanley Cup champions, and they better not forget that. And
can the Rangers do something nuts here and win it all? Like let's say they win, and obviously Colorado, I don't expect them to blow a 3-0 series lead to the Edmonton.
No, we can assume you can assume Colorado's going to win. I don't know if they could beat Colorado. You know,
you got the goalie, you got the defense. Trouba and Fox have been tremendous, and we talked about it yesterday. The Rangers are everything I want the Flyers to be. Same with the Boston Celtics. That's why there's no venom. There's no venom towards the Rangers.
They are. They are. They are. Just that Colorado just has too much talent. I just don't know that the Rangers can beat that team. Plus, as tough as the Rangers are now, and all the all the tough players they have in their team, believe it or not, Colorado is just as tough, maybe even tougher. And people forget how tough that team is, and it does make a difference.
We had a coaching. The Boston Bruins fired their coach today.
Did they name a successor, or they just?
What was his name?
Cassidy, I think. Wasn't it Mike Cassidy?
Mike Cassidy. He goes. He gets the axe. Yeah, Bruins fire Bruce Cassidy following a first-round exit. Okay. That's a guy who's had a lot of success.
I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that they did that, because the Bruins really are just not that good anymore. I don't know what. Seriously, where were they expecting the Bruins to be this year?
And who they lose? They lost to Tampa, right?
No, they lost to the Hurricanes.
Okay, they lost to the Hurricanes. So they weren't the better hockey team. They're an aging franchise. I mean, is that a guy that would fit here in Philadelphia?
He might. He might. Listen, he's good with young players. They've got a lot of good young players on their team. Boston.
Flyers. They've rumors are that they've interviewed Trotz. They've interviewed Tortorella. Now I guess you could put Cassidy on that list.
Well, he's a guy they should definitely be talking to, and I think after the season, when some of the assistant coaches are available, we'll be talking to some assistant coaches as well. What
would you do if you're the Flyers? Would you get an up and coming assistant from?
I would look at St. Louis's assistants.
Yeah,
because
you think that's a better option than, say, a Tortorella or a Trotz or a Cassidy, guys that have.
Well, if you can get Trotz, I would get him, but I don't know that he's going to want to go there.
Would he be? So he's the number one coaching candidate out there.
I think he is. Tortorella would be an excellent choice as well. I just don't know if the Flyers are ready to go there, though, because Tortorella does have an expiration date, as you know.
Well, I mean, the Flyers are dreadful, and they need someone who knows what they're doing in there, even if it's for just a couple of seasons, and he wears out his welcome.
Between Trotz and Tortorella, those are two guys that defensively are – if you don't play defense for either one of those coaches – you're never going to get on the ice.
Well, the Flyers are years away. I mean, we look at the Final Four, Edmonton, Colorado, and then Tampa Bay and New York in the East. The Flyers are light years away from being a competitive hockey team with these franchises, like light years away. Like, they need a massive overhaul. Like, I'm not sure Carter Hart's the answer in goal. I'm over Provorov. I'm over Konechny. I'm over Coots.
Well, what you have to do right now is, first of all, you have to assume that Carter Hart, you have to start building the team around your goalie. You have to fix your defense. Your defense is either old and slow, or not experienced enough for the most part. He would be the one defenseman they have to me is good, and I wouldn't be complaining about him.
Provorov?
Provorov is good. He's not the problem. Okay, he is not the problem. The other ones are a problem. I will say this: the guy they traded to the Rangers, Justin Braun, he's been pretty good for the Rangers. So
he's
I
can
understand.
But he's a top pair guy here in Philadelphia, and I don't think.
Yeah, he's a number 6 in New York. But the thing is, you've got to have a couple of guys like that on the team, and then you have to have 4 young defensemen and 2 veterans, in my opinion, to have a complete defense to be able to turn things around.
I mean, here's Edmonton on the power play, not getting anything done. They just look dead in the water. They're about to give up a shorthanded goal, possibly. Smith steps up and makes the save, but
Smith is a problem on that team too. Smith is not good anymore. He's 100 years old and he's not that good anymore.
I thought maybe we were going to have a series here in the West when they took care of the Flames, who I thought I was sky high on the Flames.
Me too, and they completely outplayed the Flames. They buried the Flames, which was really surprising. But listen,
just not the case.
Edmonton just doesn't have. They don't have enough depth to deal with Colorado.
Yeah, they're top heavy.
Yeah,
they have McDavid and Drysdale, and you put Evander Kane with those guys, and he's able to produce. And, Duncan Keith, here's another shorthanded opportunity. They're just giving shorthanded opportunity after shorthanded opportunity up to this hockey team. I mean, it looks like the Avalanche are on the power play right now, and that's
the Avalanche. The Avalanche are just they're so good. That's the problem. They come out. The Avalanche come at you in waves, and then they've obviously got guys like McKinnon who can score, and then you've got a guy who will beat the crap out of you and score like Landeskog. And then they've
terrific
got
player Landeskog.
Huh?
Terrific player Landeskog.
Oh, he's outstanding. He's outstanding. He'll beat the crap out of you and he'll score a lot of goals. I mean, to me that's a complete hockey player. I love guys that are willing to drop the gloves and scare the crap out of other players on other teams and can beat you with the score. And can beat you because they have scoring ability. I'm sure I'd like Tom Wilson if he was on the Rangers. But
here's another. They haven't even possessed the puck on this power play.
Well, that's just embarrassing. That shouldn't happen.
Here, maybe they can get a last little rush here, and we'll talk about the NBA Finals a little bit. Maybe we'll get into some football, and then we will give way to the new kids on the block here. Obviously, Tom Arnaud and Ryan Brodo have been here, but Run It Back Philly joins the squad, and they're going to go on around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So keep it locked and loaded. Still 3 shows. Busiest day in A2D radio is Monday. You can't miss a thing, especially when football season starts, because it's going to be flying, because it's going to be football season is going to be fun. There are a lot of good teams, a lot of improved teams. But, I mean, this is just like a men amongst boys here in the Western Conference Finals. What's your gut on tomorrow's Ranger game, Brad? I
think the Rangers are going to win.
Is that Ranger fan Brad
talking?
No,
I think the Rangers. I think the Rangers absorbed. Listen, did you? I mean, in your heart of hearts, would you ever think that the Rangers were going to sweep Tampa Bay?
No.
Okay. Game 3 was the all hands on deck game. There was no way that they were going to end up losing that game at home.
Look, I hammered the Rangers Game 7 against Carolina because I watched a lot of that series, and I watched it, and I thought that the Rangers were the better hockey team. I watched, 3, 2.5 games of this series. I was in and out of yesterday's game, but I think the Rangers are better than Tampa Bay. And I know that
the Rangers played a very undisciplined game yesterday, okay? And that's why they got called for penalties, because they were overreacting to the bullshit, and they got to let the bullshit go. I mean, when there's scrums, when somebody's bumping Igor, you can't take a penalty, okay? Because that's what they're trying. Tampa Bay's trying to get into their heads to get them pissed off and get them off their game. You got to let that stuff go. If you want to bump Vasilevsky in the crease, okay, when the referee's not looking, give him a little shove. Give him a little butt end. Give them a little spear, when they're not looking. It's okay. You can do all that and not get a penalty, but you can't react immediately after something stupid happens. And they got caught yesterday doing it, and they were shorthanded way too many times in that game. Just be disciplined, play smart hockey. They can beat Tampa Bay. They're faster than Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has been showing old legs throughout the 3 games. For 1.5 periods, the Rangers owned that game, and then they let it get away because they started taking dumb.
I'll tell you what, Brad. This Western Conference Finals game 4 is about to go to the first intermission. I mean, Edmonton's extremely fortunate that they're only down by 1. Just
Edmonton's not going to win.
Significantly outplayed by the Avalanche on
Yeah,
their home ice.
the bottom line is the Avalanche, unless there's a miracle, they're gonna win the cup. I mean, even if the Rangers get past Tampa Bay, I just don't see them beating that team. I mean, that team to me is far and above the Rangers or Tampa Bay right now.
Is that Jonathan? That's Jonathan Toews on the Avalanche from Chicago.
No, he's not on the Avalanche.
He's not on the Avalanche. There's a guy named, I didn't know if it was the same.
Yeah, there's a guy named Toews on there. Yeah, Toews hasn't been. They didn't trade Toews to the Avalanche.
There's our man Chase checking in from Maryland, Turfs for Life 17. What's up, Chase? Thanks for tuning in. You get his thoughts on college football and the NFL when that time comes. But Brad, we got a series in the NBA now. The Warriors, they dropped game one.
Yes, we do.
Warriors, they drop game one at home. They respond nicely in game two. They absolutely dismantle the Boston Celtics in game two. And we got
the defense? How about the defense they played? How about Draymond Green? He played like a maniac yesterday.
I love that guy. I used to not like him because I was a LeBron guy when they were going up against LeBron. You remember those days on the
1360
Yes,
I do. Yes, I do. But you know what? That's the kind of guy you want on your team because he'll do anything to win.
And Steph is Steph. And look, I still think the Boston Celtics are the better basketball team. I do. I think the Boston Celtics have been the best.
If you're going to have three-fifths of your starting lineup score 2 points apiece, you're not going to beat anybody.
No, and it's like Tatum goes off and no one does anything, or Tatum has a bad shooting night and does some other things for you, and other guys step up and you win. Like, you got to find some balance there moving forward. But I think Boston's been the best team in the NBA since January.
Yeah,
Ime Udoka has been a great coach.
They play real good defense.
Look, and what I hope Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia Sixers brass are watching this series and realize that you have to defend the perimeter in the NBA. That's the Sixers' biggest weakness.
Look at the difference between Boston game one and Boston game two. Okay, Golden State did not defend in game one the perimeter, and Boston torched them. Game two, Boston got defended like crazy. I mean, the Warriors were all over them. They were not giving them easy 3-pointers. You know, everything that Boston got was a fight, and they got routed. So I think that that's the difference between, let's say, Doc Rivers and Steve Kerr.
Yeah, night and day.
As coaches, as coaches, you really get to see the difference. And Boston's coach. I mean, you get to see. You're seeing two of the best coaches in the league coach against each other, and then you see Rivers, and you see the difference between those guys, Rivers and those two guys.
Boy, I look at the Sixers, and they can't defend the perimeter. They can't.
The perimeter. Their coaches make no adjustments.
Very, very little. But like, if you're gonna have different guard after guard and forward after forward, just get to 50. I'm talking about the Sixers now. Get to 15 to 18 feet, 12 feet, and just pepper you with the mid-range jumper, and you don't stop ball, and you just let them do it. What that does is it forces Joel up, and then you let up layups on the back end. And I saw that all year with the Sixers. And
the perimeter somebody's going to either have to teach them to play perimeter defense, or they're going to have to make a couple of changes to the roster.
Well, they're definitely going to have to make changes, but like the changes that I'm hearing being talked about among Sixers fans in the various groups and Twitter and social media and all that stuff, like I don't think a Bradley Beal addition in exchange for a Tobias Harris, I don't think that makes you better. I would argue that makes you worse, because then you have no spot for Maxey in the starting lineup. If you do have a spot for starting Maxey with Harden and Beal at your guard spots, you're going extremely, extremely, extremely small, and Bradley Beal doesn't help your defense. Tobias Harris is at least a willing defender.
The thing is, what they need to do, they need to get a couple of role players as starters. You know, that are willing to take a back seat and do the dirty work. the dirty work along the boards, just setting screens, being able to catch and shoot. They need a couple of guys like that. They don't need to have 5 all-stars on their team. And I think that's the problem. I think that Morey is so he's so headstrong in trying to get that trophy player instead of trying to just build a really good fundamental team, and be able to bring in 7, 8 guys who are real good defensively, play both ends of the court and just do what they do. That's what Boston does.
So if you get a guy to play defense, for defense, and he's got to be a two-way player. He can't be like Matisse Thybulle, which I'm an advocate of Matisse Thybulle.
No. I'm not talking about a guy like that. I'm talking about a guy who can put up maybe 10 points a game, but a tiger defensively.
You mean a guy like Mikal Bridges out of Villanova, who they drafted with the 10th overall pick, 9th overall pick, whatever it was, and they traded him to the Suns for Zaire Smith, who's not even in the league anymore. A guy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you need to address center because DeAndre Jordan is not it. Obviously you have Joe, but Joe's never at his best when this team needs him the most. If Joel Embiid doesn't take this team to the Eastern Conference Finals or beyond, they're not going. So you need to be able to give him nights off and have him ready for the playoffs. So you need, I don't think Andre Drummond's coming back. He needs to stay in Brooklyn. Why would he leave Brooklyn? Brooklyn's far superior team than the Sixers. They're going to be a much higher seed with Kyrie Irving playing the entire season next year with Durant.
Is he though? He's a free agent.
He is a free agent. Yeah. So he can do whatever he wants as a free agent.
Yeah. He may stay in Brooklyn. He may not.
I don't think the Sixers are a desirable spot for any free agent. The Sixers are a train wreck.
Where are they going to get the money to pay him, though?
Another great point, Brad, because you're on the hook with Harden's going to be here, not going anywhere. Whether he opts in for the $47 million for the 1 year or he opts out and he comes back for a less than max deal, he's going to be here next year. He's going to be making a lot of money.
Right.
Maxey's
Harris is going to be making a lot of money too.
Harris makes a lot of money.
Yeah,
he does. I like Harris. I don't like his paycheck because I think he gets paid too much, and I think that they should keep Jimmy.
That's the problem. Okay, that's the problem with them right now. They really instead of going trophy hunting for trophy guys, get some guys who are going to help you. They can play some defense, can score a little bit, and just play hard and defend the perimeter and do the little things, because that's the problem. I think they're so enamored with bringing in superstars. They want to bring in Lillard. They want to bring in Donovan Mitchell. It's always got to be somebody. It always has to be.
That's actually Donovan Mitchell is actually interesting because the Jazz coach just stepped down. They're in, kind of purgatory there in a weak West, the Jazz. So they might be looking to do some things this offseason. Donovan Mitchell's outstanding, and Donovan Mitchell can 1,000% defend the perimeter. So if you're moving a guy like Harris and you're getting your hands on a guy like Donovan Mitchell somehow, that makes you better. Bradley Beal, not so much. Dame Lillard, not so much. Donovan Mitchell absolutely does.
Mitchell is a guy that I keep hearing is going to be available this summer.
Well, he was at the game, Brad. The Sixers, I think it was game 5 or 6. I guess it was game 5 because it was in Philly. He was at the game. So I don't know if there's smoke there or he wants to come here or whatever, but that's a player you get, and that makes you better because he can play the 1, he can play the 2. Then you bring Maxey off the bench.
How much money is he making, and can the Sixers?
He's a max player.
Huh?
He's a max player.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know what his contract is right now, but if he's not a max player, he's going to get a max contract because in my opinion,
if you get him, you have to somehow get rid of Harden.
That's not happening. Morey and Harden are thick as thieves, Brad. Yeah, they're boys from Houston days. They almost traded for him before he even went to Brooklyn, and now they finally got their hands on him in the Ben Simmons trade. Harden and Morey, they're thick as thieves, and he's going to be here. He's not going anywhere. You bring in Mitchell, you cultivate a Tobias for Donovan Mitchell swap, and there'll probably have to be one or two additional teams. I'm sure Ryan Brodo, maybe even tonight, will bust out his trade machine. Big trade machine guy, Ryan Brodo, and it's a lot of fun when he does it to get the money to match up and things like that. But if they can figure out a way to do that, and you have Harden, Mitchell, Joe underneath, Thybulle's in the mix, Maxey's in the mix.
That would work. But all this stuff about like Lillard or these guards and everything,
hard pass.
Your guards are fine. You don't have a problem with your guards.
Well, I would be on board with Beal and Mitchell, Beal and Lillard, if they defended the perimeter at an elite level like a Donovan Mitchell can. And Donovan Mitchell, I mean, I wouldn't even call him elite, but he would be by far the best perimeter defender on the Sixers.
You know who else? You know who else would work too is if the Knicks don't re-sign Mitchell Robinson, he'd be a guy you guys might want to think about too.
Now I read that's priority number one for the Knicks this offseason. They like him up there.
I've heard that priority number one is actually Brunson from Dallas, but they just hired his dad to be an assistant coach there.
Oh, they hired Rick?
Yep. So there and Jalen is he's a guy that they really want to get, and he wants to get out of Dallas because he's never going to play. He's never going to get the playing time he needs because
right. That's why the Mavericks got to the Western Conference Finals, right? Like they had guards that could play and come at you in waves. You have Luka, who's a stud. They trade Porzingis, the unicorn, who has been nothing but a disappointment, at least in my opinion, as the second pick in the draft. They get Dinwiddie, who can play. They have Brunson, who can play. They have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's like kind of that guy you were just talking about, like the role player.
Well, they can't. They're not going to be able to pay Brunson though. Dallas. I mean, Philly
probably not.
That's. But being that he's a restricted free agent, maybe they get him on a sign and trade.
I mean, I want the Sixers to look at it. Let me see if I can get it here in our last few minutes here. Upcoming.
I'm just giving you some examples of guys who would. He's a guy. I think the Knicks' number one priority is actually Brunson, and Mitchell Robinson is a close second. And I know that they're also interested in Donovan Mitchell, and they do have some cap space available this year. They're going to have a ton of it after this year too.
I mean, that would have Donovan Mitchell would have to be a straight trade.
Yeah, he's not a free agent.
He's not a restricted or unrestricted free agent.
No, but rumor has it that the Jazz are ready to unload him.
But like I'm looking at the list right now. Like Gary Harris, like 8 years in the league. He's not young. He's not old either, but he can defend the perimeter. That'd be a great bench guy to bring in the mix.
Can he score?
But why do I need my guards to score? He can score a little bit, but I have Maxey, who's a budding superstar, and I'm going to have Harden.
But if the ball ends up in his hands with like 5 seconds to go with the 24, he can shoot it, right?
Gary,
that's really all you need to have. You don't have to have the best sixth man in the league to be able to make a move like that. You just need a very competent guy who can guard the perimeter, okay, and contribute a little bit offensively.
Like, here's another one. Kyle Anderson out of Memphis. He's 28 years old, a forward who can he can do a lot of things for you. I'd be more encouraged if Montrezl Harrell, 28 years old, 7 years in the league, bring in a guy like that. I think that helps you more than a Beal or a Lillard and a splash move like that if you're the Sixers.
Yeah, I don't think they need to make splashes. I think they've got to stop looking for the trophy player because you've got a couple of trophy players. You may have three with Maxey. I mean, why does it have to always be the best player in the league? You know, why does it have to be that guy? You can try to get gettable guys that are really hard-nosed, tough play. Like, you know, you're not going to get Draymond Green, but how about a guy who's got a ticker like Draymond Green?
Like, how about a guy who's been on the Milwaukee Bucks and all their success? A guy like Pat Connaughton. He's got player options, so I can't imagine he would want to leave there. But I guess like they give out stupid money in the NBA all the time to a guy's a lot less capable than Pat Connaughton. Like that's a guy I can bring off the bench who can make shots. Made $5 million last year.
Well, exactly. See, it doesn't always have to be a superstar. You know, you got to start. You got to start. I think that might be part of the problem with the Sixers.
Bobby Portis, another guy with a player option.
They want to win so badly, and they want to please the fans so badly that they're always going after the best players.
Look, you see what happens in Philadelphia when these grit guys pop. Everyone thinks they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, you'll engage the fans if you get a bunch of grit guys that can come off the bench and do things for you. Like, that's almost better in this market than having superstars, especially when they underachieve, because then they get crushed.
Exactly.
Like Avery Bradley.
That's the point I'm trying to make. You guys have the star power. You guys have enough guys that can score. If you're looking to, in a close game, towards the end of the game, when you need to play defense, you got to be able to put guys out there that can play defense, get rebounds, and hit shots at the foul line. That to me is the name of the game when you're closing it, when you're trying to close out an opponent.
Like, how about a guy like Thaddeus Young? I mean, he's 34 years old now.
He's too old.
He made 14, but he can come off the bench. Like, Brad, this bench was dreadful in the playoffs last year. Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, no, I know it was. They gave away all their players for Harden.
Chris Boucher from Toronto. I would love to have Chris Boucher come off the bench. Kind of hybrid, big guy, come off the bench, give you some minutes when Joe can't go. Both those guys I just mentioned will be cheaper than, let's say a Montrezl Harrell, DeAndre Ayton. He's not coming here. He's probably going to get a max deal, probably from the Pistons. That would be my prediction. But speaking of big-time money, last thing before we get out of here, some NFL news late in the day came through. Aaron Donald gets a monster extension. He's going to be making $35 million a year over the next 2 years. Finalized today. He's by far the highest-paid defensive player in football.
How do the Rams afford to keep?
I don't understand, because all I heard was the Saints are in salary cap hell, and they signed Jarvis Landry, Tyrann Mathieu. They lose their starting left tackle. They get 2 first-round draft picks in the mix. Like, all these teams, like, I guess the salary cap's just, like, not real in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't get it.
At least if you have a GM that knows what he's doing and is able to navigate it.
I don't understand how all these guys, all these teams that are, against the cap and have no cap space are picking up all these players. Well, how do they hide the money?
And, like, the Rams also signed Allen Robinson in the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you know what'll happen in December when Odell Beckham is ready to come back? He'll sign like a contract for like $1 million at the end.
Yeah,
of the
I read today that Cleveland's interested in bringing him back in to play with Deshaun Watson, because I guess Deshaun Watson is above the law and isn't going to get suspended at all. When I have guys like Calvin Ridley getting a year for betting on DraftKings, and a guy in Major League Baseball like Trevor Bauer, who makes questionable sexual decisions with his life, gets 2 years suspension. And Deshaun Watson gets nothing, and you have his lawyer out there saying that happy endings aren't illegal. It's just completely tone deaf. And you already had the precedent with Zeke, who was in charge with the crime. He got 6 games. So I guess Deshaun Watson can just act however he wants.
Because you know what it is, because and again, I can't stand Elliott either, but you know what? The league doesn't really like him too much. The league likes Watson. They don't like Zeke.
I guess because he's a quarterback. Bob Branken, would you swap Harris for Bridges?
Oh Jesus! You do that in a minute.
I don't know about that.
He's a lot younger and he makes a lot less money.
Well, he's going to get paid. He's got to get paid soon.
Okay, but at least for this year, he doesn't have to get paid. And if you get a guy like him, then you can spend.
I love what Tobias. It's a shame because I love what Tobias Harris brings to the table. He just makes way too much money.
Yeah, well,
it hamstrings you greatly.
It does. That's the problem.
So I mean, Daryl Morey's got his work cut out for him. because you already have to replace Danny Green, who tore his ACL at 38 years old. Like, he's not coming back. You don't have a backup big for Joe. Like, DeAndre Jordan was a complete disaster, and B-Ball Paul and Charles Bassey, all due respect to them, they're not answers. And
No,
you
but
have
there's
limited
plenty
money,
there's plenty of big guys that you can get.
and
as
you can't
backups.
defend the perimeter.
No,
They are going to have a first-round pick. The Nets deferred the first-round pick from the Ben Simmons trade, so they declined to take it this year. They're going to take it next year. So the Sixers will have the 23rd pick in the NBA draft. We'll get into the draft, which really happens right after the NBA Finals. Maybe one of the weakest drafts I've seen in a really long time. So that's intelligent on the Nets' part to recognize that, read the room and recognize that, and recognize that the Sixers might be significantly worse next year than they were this year.
yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, Brooklyn is also smart too, because you know what, I think they're going to go out. They're going to try to acquire or bring in somebody expensive.
Well, they're going to have to make a decision on Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, but they can bring him, but they can re-sign him, and it won't and go over the cap. And just
I understand,
pay
and
over the cap.
him and Durant talk about being thick as thieves. I mean, they're buddies. Like, I don't think they're going to break that up, but I don't know. They might.
They might. Well, listen, Irving hasn't played in that many games. That's part of the problem.
But wasn't because of injury.
No, it was because he wouldn't get his COVID shot.
Right. So now that's over, at least for now.
Yeah, but with Irving, it's been one thing after another with.
Yeah, but like the Nets aren't like the 7 seed. The Nets aren't in the play-in series if Kyrie Irving plays a full season.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
He's a knucklehead, but he's an excellent basketball player.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
So like that's a team that's going to have a better record than the Sixers next year. Boston's better, the Heat are better, Milwaukee's better. And then you have teams like, it seems like the teams get better. Sixers is going to be hard for them to get better. Morey is going to he's got his work cut out for him. I don't know what he's going to do. But you're like extremely close to being back in purgatory, like the Jazz are, and like you were before this ridiculous process started, to being right back to where you were to start, with no championships, no Eastern Conference Finals, and like only the Nets and the Wizards have longer Eastern Conference Finals droughts than the Sixers in the East.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
What? Wait a minute. The Knicks aren't in there
So
too?
the Sixers went 0-1 with Iverson.
Right. The last time the Knicks went to the that was the finals. They were
The Sixers
99.
went more recently than the Wizards and the Knicks.
Okay, yeah. And the Nets.
No, the Nets were in it last year.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Okay, yeah.
And Durant's foot was on the line, so they lost.
Yeah. Right.
And then I think it's the Kings in the West. So the only 3 teams with longer droughts without being to a conference finals are the Kings, who are a train wreck, the Knicks, who are always a train wreck, as you know, and the Washington Wizards, who they're never good.
No,
so
you're
like
right.
The process didn't accomplish anything. Like, this is it's the bottom of the 9th for Daryl Morey in this process. Because like if you can't figure out a way to get there next year, like you're back where you started in purgatory, and that's a real kick in the balls.
They have to. They're going to have to take the summer, and they're going to. I think that they're going to have to concentrate on getting high energy.
Let me look at a mock draft real quick.
Huh?
Let me look at an NBA mock draft real quick, because it's a bleak draft. Let me look at it real quick, because the kid from Auburn, Jabari Smith, should be the first pick. He's a beast. But past that, okay, this will be from here, Sports Illustrated. Let's see when this was updated. We'll bring it up here. The kid from Duke, Paolo Banchero, the Italian kid from Duke, he's real good too. But they're not going to be there at 23. So the Magic first. Yeah. Banchero. Holmgren, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. out of Gonzaga, the skinny 7-footer. I just don't know who he's going to be able to guard at the NBA level.
No, he's going to get
Keegan Murray, fourth
knocked all
pick.
over
I
the
mean,
court.
Jaden Ivey's good, but I watched him disappear in the Sweet 16 against St. Peter's of all teams. Saw it live. Johnny Davis, 6. Like, really? Like, from Wisconsin? Like, there's a guy from the G League I never heard of. There's a kid from Kentucky, Hayden Sharp. They're always Benedict Mathurin. He's a beast out of Gonzaga, but I mean, I don't see him being there at 23. I guess it's possible. Let's see who they got in the 20 range here. Does the Knicks have a first-round pick this year, Brad?
Yes.
I mean, you're getting into here's the 16th.
Wait a minute. Maybe they don't because when they got Cam Reddish, I think they gave up a first-round pick.
I just didn't see him.
No, it's Carolina.
I don't see him on the list. So.
No, the Knicks have the 11th pick. They would have had the 18th pick, but they traded it for. They traded it, yeah.
So yeah, the Knicks are 11th. Yeah, I'm sorry,
the Knicks are 11th.
But you get into the late teens, early 20s. I mean,
well, you're always going to have. It's always going to be a roll of the dice at that point.
But they got Maxey, so they can do it. So like, there are deep drafts that present themselves, but like, I just don't.
Yeah, but that was
a
different circumstance, though, Rob, because nobody really got to see him play in the tournament or anything because of
Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. Never heard of him. Wasn't in the tournament. Santa Clara, obviously not a basketball powerhouse. You got him going 18th there. EJ Liddell from Ohio State. Like, no thanks. Tweener, 6'7". Is he a power forward? Is he a stretch 4? I don't know. Kid from Serbia. I don't know anything about at 20. Blake Wesley, a guard from Notre Dame. Can that be a difference maker? I don't know. Another kid from the G League I'd have to look up. So this mock draft has the Sixers taking Terry Easton, a forward out of LSU. I mean, I like the LSU. I like the athletes they breed down there. But, another G League guy.
But they can always develop some of these guys, too, It would be nice if that happened.
I mean, Walker Kessler, 7'1", out of Auburn. That could be an interesting steal for someone in the later first round of the draft. There's your backup center. I mean, that guy, he's a highly skilled big guy. He was the big white kid on Auburn that got all the blocks, if you recall.
Yeah, he would.
Wendell Moore out of Duke,
He would be a good fit.
And you go to the second round. Trevor Keels, I love. I think he has a skill set, but
who are they picking for the Knicks in the 11th pick?
Merrick Williams, the center from Duke. So obviously, if they obviously they wouldn't do that. I guess if
they don't sign Mitch, that's who they're going to draft then. Oh, God. They better re-sign him.
Yeah, so it's a bleak draft.
That would suck if all of a sudden he shows up on the Sixers as a power forward, and then you move, and then Harris becomes their number 3. That wouldn't be good.
I mean, I like Jalen Duran out of Memphis better than Merrick Williams out of Duke. 6'11" guy out of Memphis. Penny gets really talented guys down there at Memphis. But, I mean, Ty Washington at guard at 16 going to the Hawks. Like, he can shoot and score on the perimeter, and I like that. But, boy, he it always seemed to be something him from an injury standpoint.
Doesn't Trae Young always do that, though?
Different type player. I mean, you see how the NBA works now. You got to have guards.
Yeah, it is a guard. It is a guard league now. It's a guard league.
You don't build around centers anymore. It's not 1994. It's not even 2000.
It's not like it used to
Lakers
be.
had Shaq.
Yeah, well, back then there was Ewing and there was Shaq and there was Olajuwon. There were
It was
some
different though. It was a tough physical game.
yeah. They
How
don't
does
let you play
how does
that
it
way.
feel, Rob? St. Louis Brinkman to lose in fantasy baseball by .083 points. Yeah, I lost by .083 points in fantasy to my buddy Dennis. Check this out on Facebook. I blame myself. I tried to stream pitchers and play games, and I ended up losing myself points, and I lost the week.
Yeah, I did
So,
the same thing. But
but I
I was
have to.
worse, Bob. Not
But I
yeah.
also didn't have Correa's been on COVID, and I've just been kind of riding out because I have no IL spots because I'm stashing DeGrom. Joe Ryan's had COVID. He's been a big time contributor for my team. So we'll see. I'm 5-3. I'm in second place. So we're not in panic mode.
You have
I
a
have
very
Bryce
good,
Harper.
He has a very good team, by the way, folks.
You have a good team too.
Well, if I would put the guys in where they belong when they're supposed to pitch.
And
I
the
would be
A2D league,
6-2.
the A2D fantasy baseball league, my team's a mess. I only have 2 IL spots. It's chaos. I have both Brewers pitchers on the IL. I have Boz and Strasburg stashed. Strasburg, I think he's pitching Thursday.
So he's coming back?
Yeah, I think he's going to pitch Thursday. He's been rehabbing nicely with no setbacks. I think he's going to pitch Thursday.
He'll probably pitch 4 or 5 innings then, hopefully.
Well, they'll ease him back in. I mean,
yeah,
Washington's not going anywhere, so.
No.
So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of problems. I got a lot of problems on the fantasy front. It takes me like an hour to sift through the rubble of my teams every Monday morning because I have so damn many of them. But that's the life. That's the life I lead. And don't worry, Team Pumpkin, I will get you back when it matters most. Because like I always say,
I believe I took care of that team.
So, Brad, like I always say, there's Edmonton just knotted it up. Some signs of life there in Edmonton. Fans going wild. I think that was Drysdale.
You mean Draisaitl?
I think he just scored. But yeah, like I say to everyone who beats me in fantasy in a relatively meaningless regular season matchup, you might beat me, but you'll never kill me. And I'll see you again. But anyway, that'll do it for the Sports Hounds here tonight. Thank you everyone who likes, subscribe to the show. Thank you to Frank Vesby for producing the show. Thank you to our great sponsors here. Check us out next Monday, Rant Booth 11:30. Tom Arnaud and Ryan Bodo on around 10 o'clock with Run It Back Philly. Until next Monday, everybody, peace out.